Excuse me, sir. You mind to answer a couple questions?
Yeah, sure.
All right. What are your financial plans for college? How do you intend to pay for school?
I have a work-study job with CIT. I work 7.5 hours a week, Mondays and Wednesdays, and then I also have loans because college is just too expensive.
I got that. Anything else, or is that it?
That's pretty much it.
How do you guys plan on paying for college?
My mommy and daddy pay for me.
Lucky you. I work for Cass.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah?
We're conducting a survey of Geneseo students. Would you mind answering a few questions?
Sure.
How are you paying for college or mitigating its costs?
Well, this year my parents said they'd help me out, but next year I'm on my own. So I'm going to be an RA next semester, and then I'm also going to be working over the summer at Dunkin' Donuts Baskin Robbins.
Excuse me, sir.
Hey,
We're conducting a survey of Geneseo students. Would you mind answering a few questions?
yeah, I got some time.
How are you paying for college or mitigating its costs?
I'm selling the good shit.
Pardon me?
Hold up. I just showed. That's how.
Naturally, we had to inquire further. In interviewing other students, we noticed that they had more conventional ways of financing their education. We saw that you were selling something. Would you mind explaining?
Wild deal in Jenk.
What's Jenkum, a drug?
Sorta. It's a hallucinogen.
Isn't that a bit ramshackle? Selling illegal substances sporadically at significant legal risk to finance 4 years of your life?
It seems to me that your plan isn't very well thought out.
Clearly, you don't comprehend the kind of operation I'm running here. I mean, you think I'd be here talking to you right now if I didn't have this whole thing mapped out?
No, I mean, really, between me and you, I've known guys who will pull this sort of thing for 3, maybe 4 years tops before they get caught, or they'll stick to weed, and they can't sell consistently enough to make money to maintain their finances, and again, that's disregarding any sort of legal risks.
Well, first of all, Jenkum is not regulated or illegal at the state or federal level. It's free game, homeboy.
What makes you so sure that your business will remain fruitful then? And what exactly is Jenkum anyway?
Now this can't go public. You know?
Yeah.
It might be bad for business.
Okay, sure. Whatever.
You're gonna edit this shit out, right?
No, it's between me and you. All right.
Baby, understand. When I told you I was selling the good shit, that's kind of exactly what I'm selling. Jenkum is a combination of shit and piss that you put in a bottle, you put a balloon over that shit, and you leave it out in the sun for about a week. And when you get done with that, you take the balloon fumes and you huff them. That shit people are huffing, that's Jenk.
People do this? Jenkum is quite possibly the most disturbing discovery of the late 20th century. After this exchange, Jacob shows documentation indicating that not only was Jenkum an actual drug, but that it had been popular amongst Zambian youth since at least the 1990s.
And I'm sure the plans of those other students you referenced, previously, you know, there wasn't even a fraction of the meticulous work I put into figuring out my finances. In fact, you know, I bet half of them are banking on, you know, going into college, taking out loans, and when they come out of college, you know, getting a job and paying off them loans. But thanks to my business model, I'm guaranteed that when I leave college, I got a cash surplus. You know, believe me, I thought about some other shit, selling some other stuff, you know, or working, you know. I thought, you know, obviously want to move off campus, you know, save money that way because housing's a bitch. You know, selling other drugs like weed and speed and coke. But, I mean, we already know that that stuff's got some dangers to it. And then, of course, you know, there's that deep, dark moment in everybody's life when they think, maybe I should work for Cass. But nah, that wasn't me. So, after careful consideration, you know, I decided this route's the best. You know?
Do go on.
Well, I calculated all my factors in advance. Jenkum cost pennies on the dollar to produce. And, you know, one batch, it takes about 7 days to make. And once you got it, like, that first bit made in the batch, you just store it. And there's nothing else you need to do. And, you know, overhead for storing it is negligible, because overhead is basically, do I have space underneath my bed to fit it? And up until recently, production was simple enough that I could just do it in a little bit of the arboretum. Then it got cold out, and I feel like dealing with it. So now I'll do it inside. This low cost of business helps contribute to low product cost. And, you know, I mean, I could sell a low unit price, which in turn, you know, leads to a speedy turnover of product and negates any possibility of the hassle of, you know, storing extra jank. Because I don't want that shit lying around.
This is all terribly intricate. How did your business evolve to this point when you've essentially been peddling fermented ass gas?
Man, I've been doing this shit since the 9th grade. And that was the first big obstacle, you know, concealing what the fuck it is. Because ain't nobody want to know what the fuck it is. So what I figured out was, you put in a CO2 cartridge. And you have them, like, you know, shoot it up. In like a CO2 cracker. And so they just get high as shit. And they know it tastes like ass. But they get high as shit. And they don't care. And that's how I started off. And within a year, I had like a quarter of my school doing it in high school. And by senior year, I was, you know, selling it in surrounding schools with the help of like a little support staff.
Interesting. You mentioned having a detailed plan on how you'd use these proceeds to finance your schooling. Would you mind elaborating on that?
Oh, hell yeah, I can elaborate on that. I mean, man, I got this shit right here. I got this. I got it all mapped out. I mean, check out this shit. Look at this shit. Yeah. Take a look at that.
Well, it's all here. This is how much you're going to spend if you spend 4 years here, living off campus from the next year. How much you're going to spend if you spend 4 years here, living off campus from junior year. And a contingency plan for a potential 5th year.
One major issue here is establishing a market for my product. I'm making considerable headway in expanding sales to other undergraduates. But in order to fuel my contingencies, such as possibly having to spend an extra year, being unable to find affordable off-campus housing, or something else like that, I need to expand beyond the student body. Now, I tried selling to some townies, but, you know, them motherfuckers, they've already been doing jank for so long that they develop a mean-ass tolerance to the shit. And, you know, I'm concerned about finding a new source of revenue. And, in fact, every few weeks, I review my finances to compare my projected costs to what I'm making. And I gotta make sure they match up or I'm doing better than that. Gotta stay in the black. Hold up. What the fuck did I got rejected for off-campus housing next year.
So?
I'm gonna have to make another 10 grand a year because the school making me live on campus. So I'm gonna have to make another 10 grand a year. And that means I gotta push another kilo of jank just this semester to make up the difference between the two.
What's the issue? The way you've described it, Jenkum, seems pretty easy.
But you don't understand, man. That means I gotta start producing this shit on an industrial scale. Now I'm talking empty 40s full of shit and balloons in the middle of the woods where it won't, and it just ain't gonna hack it anymore. I'm talking like, I'm gonna need a fucking lab.
And?
You imbecile, jank houses are notoriously dangerous. When I was in 10th grade, one of my own went up in fucking flames because of a spark near an ass gas leak. put it simply, there was casualties.
We requested to document Jacob's quest for Jenkum. He agreed. This is merely what followed.
This right here, this the lab.
How did you get so much shit?
RJ.
With production being documented, we then moved on to distribution.
How did it go?
Operation was a massive success. The Jenk house operated without incident. I made enough not only to compensate for my shift in prospective housing for the next year, but now I got enough to invest in some promising looking multifactional stock options with a hedge fund management and a buyout option if I do so choose.
So, what's your end game?
What that means, basically, those stocks combined with the cheaper projected housing for the next 2 years when I can live off campus means I ain't gotta sell Jenk no more.
Jacob would go on to graduate from Geneseo with a degree in business and chemistry. Unlike the majority of his colleagues, he'd managed to do so without accumulating any debt.
Damn, it feels good to be a gangster.